Tonight, Come Home Mum, a daughter's desperate plea as the search for Samantha Murphy enters a fifth day. Regional security in the NRL, the PM of Papua New Guinea makes history in Parliament. Outback wrangler Matt Wright tonight facing fresh charges. Is it the end of the road for another Aussie icon? Prince William back at work with a famous friend. Plus, Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker learn their fate as other NRL stars sweat on Vegas visas.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. People don't just vanish into thin air. The family of missing Victorian woman Samantha Murphy today made an emotional appeal for help to bring her home. Through tears, Samantha's eldest daughter described how strong her mother is. And 5 days on from the disappearance, police say they still haven't found any suspicious circumstances.
For 5 days, Jess Murphy's mum has been missing.
Mum, we love you so much and we miss you and we need you at home with us.
The eldest daughter of Samantha Murphy somehow finding the strength to make this heart-wrenching plea.
Mum's a really strong woman and she's far too determined to give up this fight. I know she's out there somewhere, so if you could please continue to search for her, to give us something to work with, we'd really appreciate it.
By her side, her dad and Sam's husband Mick.
People just don't vanish into thin air. Someone's got to know something.
There are no suspicious circumstances that we've identified at this stage.
The 51-year-old mother of three left her home in Ballarat East on Sunday morning to go for a jog at 7 o'clock. 16 minutes later, a woman was captured on CCTV close by. But tonight, police have confirmed it wasn't Sam. Their only clue now, on Sunday afternoon, her phone pinged near a golf club 14 kilometres from her home. The theory is she was heading towards Canadian Forest, her regular running route. That's where the search continued today. Volunteers back on bikes, others trekking for kilometres in the hope of a breakthrough.
Any little thing that you might think's relevant, just call the police, let them know. It'll give us a bit of peace of mind if we get some hope from someone.
Sam has never gone missing before. Her disappearance is completely out of character. But despite every day that passes, her family isn't giving up.
Please come home soon. I can't wait to see you and to give you the biggest hug when I do and to tell you off for giving us so much stress. I love you.
Sophie Walsh, 9 News.
History was made in Canberra today as Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister became the first Pacific Island leader to address Parliament. As security tensions ramp up across our region, James Marape pledged nothing will come between our nations. And there was also a plea to bring the NRL to PNG.
A show of defensive might for a people that once defended our shores. Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister James Marape and a grand welcome. This walk reserved for the world's most powerful. Today, trod by the leader of our nearest neighbour.
Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea.
Addressing a joint sitting of Parliament, the first leader of a Pacific nation to do so.
It will be a decisive decade for us, and it can be a decisive decade because of us.
With recent unrest at home, Mr Marape thanked Australia, promising a generation of cooperation.
Do not give up on Papua New Guinea. We have always bounced back from our low moments.
As the Prime Minister spoke, 2 floors above, a Chinese dragon welcomed in the new year. A reminder of the power struggle between Beijing and the West playing out in the Pacific and in PNG.
In a world of many relations with many nations, nothing will come in between our two countries.
Tonight, while China has money, Australia is relying on rugby league. The Prime Minister presented with the Queensland jersey and more funding for development. This hard game, the ultimate soft diplomacy.
I hope the day will come when the people of Papua New Guinea can cheer for a team of their own in the National Rugby League.
From strength comes security, and from security comes stability, and from stability comes prosperity.
The sentiments and significance of the speech will please Australia and our allies, but words must be backed by actions.
I know we live in a different era, and we're not going back to where we were.
The grip on our region a little tighter tonight. Charles Croucher, 9 News. Today was about regional security, but tonight there is rumbling in our ranks. Defence Minister Richard Marles saying Australia's defence heads and Defence Force have a way to go before they reach the appropriate level of excellence. Any objective observer would say defence procurement and planning is slow and expensive. Now, at a time of instability and threats in our region, the Minister's displeasure is public. And that, Pete, carries with it risks of its own.
OK, Charles, thank you. There are reports tonight another iconic Australian brand is going out of business. This time it's Bow Repairs. 9's Sophie Upcroft is at Chatswood for us this evening. Sophie, what more can you tell us?
Well, Pete, there are reports that this century-old tyre company could soon be closing its doors. We reached out to Bow Repairs. Their official response was no comment. The Australian company was founded in 1922 and there are close to 100 stores across the country. There is speculation tonight that if it closes, up to 600 jobs could be lost. It is now owned by a parent company, Dunlop Goodyear Tyres. They are yet to respond to our questions.
Normally these things are kept pretty close to their chest until they come out in public, but I would imagine this has probably been going on for a while and this is a last-ditch chance that they may have to try and save the business.
Pete, if Bow Repairs shuts up shop, it would be a huge loss, particularly with so many local jobs on the line.
Sophie, thank you. A nasty two-car crash forced the closure of Appin Road at Appin for several hours today. A ute and SUV colliding just before 8 a.m, with emergency crews needing 2 hours to free a man from the wreck of the SUV. He was among 4 people taken to Liverpool Hospital. An unconscious man has been pulled from a burning unit in Rockdale. Firefighters were forced to smash through the man's front door on Hayburn Avenue just after 11 o'clock.
Intense fire, flames leaping out from both ends of the units from the balcony and outside the window.
The man was taken to hospital with serious burns. It's not yet known how the fire started. Firefighters also doing their best to save this home at Greenfield Park in the city's southwest. Crews managing to contain the blaze to the rear of the home on Asher Crescent, but part of the roof did collapse. 3 people were home at the time. All are okay. The Premier is facing serious backlash from local mayors tonight as he pushes ahead with sweeping planning changes to pack more homes into Sydney suburbs. But he's found 2 high-profile allies, former Premiers Bob Carr and Dominic Perrottet, both encouraging Chris Minns to build up.
Sydney's housing crisis, a long-time political football that the Premier has picked up and run with.
We can't live in a world anymore where we just say no. No to housing, no to opportunities for young people.
But Chris Minns is planning changes for high-rise rezonings around 8 transport hubs and to push up density elsewhere by allowing single-block homes to be developed into duplexes have triggered huge concern for southwest Sydney mayors.
Almost 85% of Canterbury Bankstown will be affected. No one's talking about the roads and the infrastructure that's needed to accommodate this growth.
From Canterbury Bankstown to Fairfield, they fear a blunt, one-size-fits-all approach.
All we're asking for the Premier to do is stop being a dictator. Let's start talking.
No, and I'm not going to get into name-calling. We're prepared to and happy to sit down with everybody, but you can't just come to the table and say no.
But today, 2 former Premiers backed the need to increase supply.
There's a lot of capacity to be building up, there is no doubt, in Sydney.
This is intelligent planning, but I think the mayors are out of touch with their own public opinion.
A key figure in the housing supply-demand equation is immigration. The intake is set by the federal government, but it's the state that picks up the bulk of the bill for new roads, railways, schools and hospitals.
There's not enough homes being constructed for people who aren't even here yet, let alone for our own Australians.
There's got to be a better way of linking decisions about the immigration intake to housing and infrastructure.
Chris Minns wedged between the Commonwealth and the councils with a citywide problem to solve. At State Parliament, Liz Daniels, 9 News.
A 25-year-old man has been charged with murder after the body of a woman in her 60s was found in a Tweed Heads home. Police were called to the property late yesterday afternoon following a concern for welfare report.
I saw the police officers wheeled in and they rushed inside and then came back out, got a first aid kit and rushed inside, but it seemed like it was probably too late.
The man was arrested outside a nearby pharmacy. A short time later, he faced court today and was refused bail. Kirtley Beale's barrister has described the rugby union star's accuser as a manipulative woman, alleging she has made false sexual assault allegations. The footballer's lawyers have made a final pitch, urging the jury to return a not guilty verdict.
Kirtley Beale is a married man who, by his own admission, did the wrong thing by his family. According to his barrister, thrown under a bus by a manipulative woman who curated the circumstances of the night, a false allegation made to try to change the dynamic in one's own difficult time of life. It was December 2022 at Bondi's Beach Road Hotel, the former Wallaby accused of groping a 28-year-old in the bar. CCTV then captures the complainant following the footballer into the men's bathrooms where he says they had consensual oral sex. You wouldn't accept that any woman of her maturity, worldliness, would follow this actively dangerous person who's brazenly criminally assaulted her in a public place into a space that was separated from the crowd. The rugby union star was arrested a day after saying sorry to the woman in a phone call recorded by police. Crown Prosecutor Jeff Tunks suggesting it reflected a guilty conscience, but Beale denies the apology was an admission. After almost 2 weeks of evidence, both the prosecution and defence have made their final arguments to the jury. Tomorrow, the judge will brief the panel of 7 women and 5 men before they retire to consider Kirtley Beale's fate. Tiffany Genders, 9 News.
2 men have been charged over an allegedly deliberately lit bushfire on the state's mid-north coast. The fire burnt through 70 square metres of the Nambucca State Forest on the afternoon of January 7. A 23-year-old was arrested at Maxville and a 26-year-old at Nambucca Heads. A Green Valley man has been charged with 62 offences, accused of ripping off 3 companies of more than $2 million. Police say he was one of 3 men in a syndicate that made fraudulent loan applications to car dealerships. More pressure is mounting tonight on TV star Matt Wright, the Outback Wrangler facing fresh charges which could send him to jail. Nine's Damien Ryan joins me in the studio. Damien, Wright is accused of reckless conduct.
That's right, Pete. The action has been taken by the Northern Territory WorkSafe. Now, Wright's been charged with failing to maintain a safe aircraft by allegedly falsifying the flight hours of a helicopter, which of course crashed near Darwin in 2022, killing his friend and co-star Chris Wilson. Now, if found guilty, he could face up to 5 years jail or $1.2 million fine, or both. Now, Wright is waiting to stand trial on charges of perverting the course of justice and destroying and fabricating evidence. And Pete is also being sued by Chris Wilson's widow.
Damo, thank you. A task force to tackle wait times in our emergency departments has met for the first time today. A major priority, getting more people to their GPs, with the Health Minister saying 45% of patients turning up at EDs have issues like earaches and sprains.
I'm not going to set a specific target. I'm not going to do that at this early stage. What I am going to do is focus on what we can do better across the system.
Measures include rolling out 25 urgent care centres and ramping up virtual care services. All families in Sydney will have the option to send their kids to co-educational public high schools from next year, with catchment zones across Canterbury, Bankstown, Cumberland and the Inner West set to shift. The government has promised the entire state will have a co-ed option by 2027. Prince William has returned to work 3 weeks after wife Kate's major surgery and just days after his father's cancer diagnosis. The future king meeting actor Tom Cruise at a charity gala, but there was no reunion with estranged brother Harry.
First day back at work with family front of mind.
We really appreciate everyone's kind messages, thank you.
Prince William arriving at a gala for London's air ambulance charity, and his return to duty had a boost of star power. Tom Cruise, a surprise guest at the event. The Mission Impossible star, a keen helicopter pilot. The future king, a former air ambulance pilot himself, met with medical crews before addressing the medical battles in his own family. King Charles is off public duty after being diagnosed with cancer, and wife Kate is still recovering from abdominal surgery.
I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you also for the kind messages of support for Catherine and for my father, especially in recent days. It means a great deal to us all. It's fair to say the past few weeks have had a rather medical focus, so I thought I'd come to an air ambulance function to get away from it all.
The Prince finding humour in what's been a trying time.
And Tom, if you wouldn't mind not borrowing either of the new helicopters for the next Mission Impossible, it would be appreciated. We've all seen on our screens that, how can I put it, you seem to have a different take on normal wear and tear to the rest of us.
This signals a new era for Prince William as a working royal. As next in line to the throne, many of the King's tasks and responsibilities will fall to him, and he'll have to balance it all while supporting his father and the Princess of Wales. Earlier in the day, the Prince handed out honours at Windsor, while his brother Harry made a hasty exit from the country. The Duke of Sussex flew back to California just 24 hours after landing in London, where he saw his father for half an hour and stayed the night at a hotel.
I think that the King is tired. He's gone back to Sandringham to rest and recuperate. We expect him back to London weekly to have these appointments. Whether Harry and him can even sort of repair their relationship. He didn't see Prince William. That speaks volumes.
The King will still do official paperwork from Sandringham. He held his weekly audience with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak over the phone, taking some time to rest, but with plenty of support on hand. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
It is time now to check in on today's weather. Good evening, Amber.
Good evening to you, Pete. It was a cloudy day with moderate to gusty southeasterly winds. We enjoyed another cooler morning, dipping to below 20 degrees in the city before reaching a top of 25. The humidity sitting at around 60% for most of the day. Our west falling to 18 overnight before warming up to 24, which is 6 degrees cooler than average. Tomorrow, though, is looking several degrees warmer than the past few days, but we could see a few showers between now and the weekend. I'll be back with a full forecast a little later, Pete.
Amber, thank you. 2 teenagers in a stolen BMW lose control, and this is the result. A backyard bulldoze near Liverpool. Plus, police scramble to an Ermington street. Fright for a young family. The venomous snake found under a cot. The divisive number plate that's been forced off the road. And Sydney's $100 million home in the sky is up for grabs. Tonight, we take you inside. A family in Sydney South has had a narrow escape after an allegedly stolen luxury car ploughed into their backyard. 2 14-year-olds allegedly fled the scene but were quickly tracked down by police.
It doesn't get any closer than this. The rudest of awakenings, but a disaster dodged for a Horningsea Park family.
Last night sleep and then 2 o'clock something, and then boom.
In her backyard, an allegedly stolen, smoking and smashed up BMW. In her front yard, police are on the hunt.
The police dog has tracked the scent. Not one.
This is who they're after. 2 14-year-old boys, one the accused driver, the other the alleged passenger, seen walking from the crash on Tabletop Circuit, appearing cool and calm.
They've obviously come down the side here and gone that way.
The 2 teens were arrested nearby and taken to hospital for treatment on injuries sustained during the crash, as the homeowner is left to clean up. She's just thankful it's not a bigger job.
The car into my home is scary. I can't sit until now.
It might have missed the home, but it wiped out just about everything else. About 100 metres away from where this vehicle initially lost control, this is where it's all ended. It's travelling at such a speed that it's smashed into this more than 2 metre high concrete barrier that it's simply flattened it, losing a front bumper and a tyre in the process and ending up just centimetres away from a family home. Given its distance from the road and precarious placement, removal of the car isn't straightforward. A crane might need to be called in and could take days to organise. In Horningsea Park, Alex Sankey, 9 News.
A police operation shut down Mitchell Street in Ermington today for nearly 5 hours. The tactical operations team was called in after a 50-year-old man at a home refused to speak with local police. He was arrested shortly before 2 this afternoon and was taken to Westmead Hospital for assessment. A car with custom number plates glorifying the October 7 Hamas attacks in Gaza will be taken off the road if they are not returned. The state's roads minister says he has fast-tracked the recall process to have the plates handed back within 48 hours. The plates were registered 6 weeks after the attacks last year. A Port Stephens mother was looking for nappies in her toddler's nursery. Instead, she found a red-bellied black snake hiding under the cot. She quickly closed the door to trap it inside and called a snake catcher. It's believed the metre-long animal had entered through a gap in the front door.
They are so lucky because they are highly venomous snakes, especially if a bit of child. She's sort of lucky that she did see it when she did, because things could have turned out a lot different.
The snake was released back into the wild. Next in the news, the motorways paved in profits. Sydney commuters drive Transurban to a staggering result. E-bike injuries surge, a rider's harrowing story coming up. Homes doused in sewage water in a bushfire bungle. Plus an outbreak threatens Brazil's biggest party. Plus the surfers who fought off a killer shark. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected a ceasefire deal proposed by Hamas, instead renewing his pledge to destroy the group. It comes as the United States launched a fresh retaliation strike over attacks on its forces, targeting a militia commander in Iraq.
On the streets of Baghdad, fire roaring from a car at the site where America struck back. A targeted drone hit launched by the US, taking out a vehicle. It was carrying a Kataib Hezbollah commander and 2 of his men. The US Central Command says the Iranian-backed militia leader was responsible for directly planning and participating in attacks on US forces.
I think this is a good thing that they did, a good targeting. It's good to kill the leaders of these groups.
The Pentagon says there were no civilian casualties, but in Baghdad there is anger. America is the devil, they scream. This is the 4th round of retaliatory hits launched by the US in response to the deaths of 3 American service members last month. Tension in this region is bubbling over. In Israel,
we are on the way to complete victory.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stamping out hopes of a ceasefire in Gaza, rejecting a proposed deal from Hamas, labelling demands as delusional and doubling down that Israel can win this war.
The victory is achievable. It's not a matter of years or decades, it's a matter of months.
The steadfast stance is a blow to America's top diplomat, Antony Blinken, back in Tel Aviv and intensifying efforts to secure a breakthrough.
While there are some clear non-starters in Hamas's response, we do think it creates space for agreement to be reached. And we will work at that relentlessly until we get there.
In the United States, Lauren Tamazi, 9 News.
Voters in the Pakistan general election have begun heading to the polls less than 24 hours after 2 electorate offices were bombed in the country's southwest. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attacks which killed at least 28 people. A health emergency has been declared in Rio de Janeiro amid a surge in dengue fever cases. Mass vaccinations are now underway as fumigators work to help contain the spread of the mosquito-borne disease ahead of the city's famous carnival. Fire and ice in Montreal, a gas leak leading to an explosion which set 2 cars alight in the wintry Canadian city. 3 workers were treated for minor injuries and 2 childcare centres were evacuated. The pipe was accidentally ruptured by an excavator. They are supposed to ease congestion on our roads, but doctors say e-bikes are causing queues in our emergency departments. A spike in accidents now has trauma surgeons calling for the e-bike rental industry to be regulated.
On street corners, footpaths, bike lanes and even in traffic, e-bikes are becoming increasingly popular, but they can be dangerous. Renting an e-bike for a food delivery job to fund his working holiday nearly cost Tom his life.
I lost control about the front wheel, and then I flipped over my handlebar and pushed my handlebar inside of my belly and landed on my helmet.
Travelling at 30 kilometres an hour in a bike lane when he lost control, the 21-year-old suffered a ruptured spleen, internal bleeding and broken ribs. If he wasn't wearing a helmet, it could have been worse.
I think if I wouldn't have wear a helmet, I would have hurt my head.
What would you say to people who are getting on these bikes without their helmets?
You're stupid, wear a helmet, really. It saved my life in the end.
In the last 2 years, over 500 e-bike riders have ended up in the emergency department, 16% of those at St Vincent's Hospital.
We're having an increase in the number of accidents that are occurring with e-bikes. You can die from a simple head injury that is bad to having abdominal organs removed, and that takes months to recover.
Concerningly, the majority of patients are young males. 2/3 of those weren't wearing a helmet and a third had been drinking. Over 50% of crashes happen at night after 8 p.m. A trend trauma surgeons say needs to be stopped, calling on e-bike companies, council and government to crack down.
E-bike shouldn't be the first option for people that walk out of a pub.
Potentially limiting the use of these bikes in the late hours of the night when the majority of riders potentially would be under the influence of alcohol, and it's quite difficult to see riders at night.
Sophie Upcroft, 9 News.
It's the beep that drivers dread, but it's music to the ears of toll company Transurban, posting half-year profits of $1.3 billion. In Sydney, average daily traffic was up 1.4%. Toll revenue rose 5.2% to $878 million, its best ever result for our city. A hazmat warning is in place for parts of a Perth suburb after water from a sewage pond was used to fight a fire. Authorities say it was only dropped on bushland, but there are fears it could have been blown onto nearby homes due to wind.
Our priority is to keep people safe, to get the fires out. And in emergency situations, sometimes it doesn't always go to plan.
Residents have been told not to eat from their own gardens for the next 48 hours and empty any water tanks. 2 surfers who fought off a killer shark have been recognised for their bravery at a special ceremony at Government House today. Mark Hayes and Frank Schlee went to the rescue of a fellow surfer who was being mauled by a great white at Kingscliff in June 2020.
It's an honour to accept the award, and it would have been more of an honour if we would have saved Rob, but we didn't. So it was more about just helping someone.
The 2 men managed to get Rob Pedretti back to the shore before he died from his injuries. A life and death struggle at the Australian Reptile Park. A keeper's arm deep in a gator's jaw tonight. The meal that sparked it all. Added bonus claims Viagra drives down dementia risk.
It's arguably Sydney's best view. I'll show you the incredible apartment that comes with it. That's up next.
Looking forward to it, Eddie. Thank you, James. We have breaking news out of the Roosters.
We do. Good evening, Pete. Joey Manu told 9 News this week he was tempted to switch codes. His decision next. Plus, Latrell Mitchell's reaction to having his ticket to Vegas rubber-stamped by US officials. We're live to the Eels season launch as they look to bounce back from a frustrating year. Plus, the real reason the Tigers skipper is sporting a new do.
And we could see a few showers across the weekend, but will it be heavy enough to affect any outdoor plans? I'll have your full forecast soon.
We begin with major breaking news from the NRL, and 9 News can confirm Joey Manu has indicated to the Roosters he's likely to leave the club at the end of this season to move to rugby union. Manu is weighing up big money deals in France, and the Tricolours are privately resigned to losing the star. The 27-year-old says he doesn't want to play for another NRL club, but does want to try something new. Meantime, relief for South and the NRL tonight. Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker are on their way to Vegas. The superstars have been approved for visas, but other players are still anxiously waiting to see if the US government will let them travel.
He polarises footy fans, but has won over diplomats. Latrell Mitchell approved to lead Rugby League's American adventure.
Great process. It was pretty quick in there, so we're approved, ready to go, and can't wait for Vegas.
Mitchell and teammate Cody Walker will both be granted US visas, convincing consulate officials to give them the green light despite past misdemeanours. The NRL will be delighted. Two of its biggest draw cards confirmed starters in the historic Vegas doubleheader.
Vegas is a great game, and some fresh eyes we get to play in front of, so let's go.
Fellow Rabbitohs Michael Cheekham and Jack Whiten have also been given the green light. Whiten suspended for round one, but wants to travel with his new team. Rooster Brandon Smith is expected to be on the plane, but isn't counting his chickens just yet.
Pretty chill, pretty direct, and they were very nice, and you just got to be cooperative and tell the truth, and I think we did that, and yeah.
Are you expecting to play in Las Vegas?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we've got to go through the process and see what the higher powers have to say, but I'll be super excited to go over there. Obviously, it'll be a trip of a lifetime, and hopefully help NRL generate some money for this beautiful game of ours.
It's been a dramatic day for the Rabbitohs. The club today confirming Campbell Graham needs surgery to repair his sternum. He'll be sidelined for 6 months. This year will also mark the end of the Burgess era at the Bunnies. Tom leaving the club at the end of the season to play in the Super League. Michael Chammas, 9 News.
More breaking news now from the Roosters, and Luke Keary is staying at the club, agreeing to a 1-year contract extension. It was thought concussion concerns would see the half retire after this season, but the 32-year-old will stay with the Tricolours until the end of 2025. Panthers hooker Mitch Kenny has been hit with a breach notice from the NRL for a social media post on Boxing Day that appeared to reference drugs. Kenny says trolls were to blame. He has 5 business days to respond before a punishment is handed down. The Eels are desperate to be premiership contenders again this season after a disappointing 2023. Zach Bailey joins us from the club's season launch at Parramatta Town Hall. And Zach, there's a point to prove for the Blue and Golds.
James, there certainly is. Footy fever has struck Parramatta tonight. Their season launch taking place. We're lucky enough to be joined by their star centre, Will Penasini. The Eels have been busy. They've been down the south coast over the last couple of days. Will, come and join us for a chat. What do you hope the team gets out of the south coast experience?
Yeah, we got a lot out of that experience. Obviously, we trained hard, did a gym session there, bigger post session, but we got to meet legends of the club, which was Michael Cronin and Peter Wynn. They came to talk to us about their experience as Parramatta players, and it's inspired all of us.
A rich history for the club, sadly not a chapter you'll want to remember last year, missing out on the finals. How much will that motivate you to get back there this year?
Yeah, it's motivated us a lot. We work to play in the finals at the end of the year, and that's the type of games we want to play. So last year's obviously disappointing, but this year we have a new crew, a new set of boys, and we've trained strong.
Over the last couple of months, when you've sat down with the whiteboard and you've put your goals down for season 2024, what did Will Penasini write down?
There was a lot of goals, obviously individual goals as well, but the big one there is just to win a premiership, and I think that's what everyone's aiming for, and that's what we've aimed for this pre-season, and that's what we're going to look for towards this season as well.
We can't wait to see in action. Will Penasini, thanks so much for joining us tonight. James, a big night here for the Eels and a big season ahead.
Most certainly is. Zach, thank you. Well, one of the NRL's most exciting prospects, Dream Buller, said he was emotional when he found out Greg Inglis wanted to mentor him this season. The Tiger rookie's off-field life could prove the difference on-field for the club as they aim to snap that 13-year finals drought.
Slicing up NRL defences in his debut season, Dream Buller was a little too sharp this morning.
Oh, it's a little cut from shaving.
Perhaps another lesson to learn from league legend Greg Inglis, who has started to mentor the 22-year-old.
Yeah, it means a lot. When Benji told me, I felt like crying because, it was very emotional for me.
It's hoped Inglis's teachings will install Dream with a sense of purpose and happiness in his life off the field.
Just learn to say no. A lot of people will ask you for stuff, especially like people close to you. You just said learn to say no.
Him and Dream have a really good relationship and probably remind me of each other off the field. They're really quiet guys, don't like talking too much, but he'll be great for Dream in terms of off-field stuff, and he won't get too involved in things we're doing on the field, but it's been good having him around.
Triple Premiership winner Appy Coruscant enters his second season as a Tiger and says he can already see a big shift in the space of a year.
I think the call is coming from the playing group as well. You know, we've been holding each other accountable. As you can tell from my hair, that's not for fun, that was for punishment, you know, so we do have standards around here, and I think that's just what we need to do as well.
As Marshall's first full pre-season comes to a close, he knows the Tigers faithful are tired of waiting.
I understand the frustration around not having success, how hard that would be for our fans, but at the same time, all they've heard is talk for the last 10 years, and I've made this pretty clear, as it doesn't matter what we say anymore, it's the actions we do.
Tom Marriott, 9 News.
It's the nature of modern cricket. The next World Cup is less than 4 months away. A T20 squad, including David Warner, Glenn Maxwell and Marcus Stoinis, is gathered in Hobart to start the 3-match series against the West Indies.
Yeah, it's important for us to start to get our combinations together. Luckily enough, over the last couple of years, we've kind of, especially as a batting unit, we're kind of getting some continuity through that.
New captain Mitch Marsh has tested positive for COVID, but will play in Game 1 tomorrow night. More history for South Africa's women's cricketers, recording their first one-day win over the Aussies in 17 attempts. Their revised total of 234 was more than enough at North Sydney Oval, bowling Alyssa Healy's side out for 149. The decider will be played on Saturday. The John Eales medal needed a bit of help to fit over his hair, but Rob Valentini was a worthy winner of Australia's highest individual honour. The Wallabies forward was a standout in 2023 in what was one of the most difficult years for the sport of rugby union.
I sort of have to thank my teammates as well. They were with me along the journey there. And for them to consider me for this award truly means a lot.
Eva Kapani was named Wallaroos Player of the Year. Motorsport legend Mick Doohan says his son Jack could be driving in Formula One as early as next year. Big things are expected from Doohan Jr., who will be Alpine Racing's full-time reserve driver this season.
I believe he's ready, and he believes he's ready, and I think the team believes he's ready, being Alpine Formula One. The only thing is there's no seats.
21-year-old Jack finished 4th in the F2 Championship last year. New Year, same old story, with the Aussie women impressing on day one of their season opening event at Pipeline. Two-time world champ Tyler Wright moving through to the third round in style, as did Sally Fitzgibbons and 21-year-old Molly Picklum, who snapped up the 2 best waves in her heats. Plenty happening, Pete. Latrell's got a visa and Joey Manu off to rugby union, and it's still a month till the season starts.
Unbelievable. Thank you, James. Thank you. A major turning point for Uber. That story is next. Also ahead, the link between Viagra and Alzheimer's disease. A dangerous rescue after Houdini the alligator swallowed something he shouldn't have. And a castle in the clouds inside the Sydney home, the likes of which we may never see again. In a city where property is king, we're about to show you one that might just reign supreme. A 2-level penthouse at the very top of the Crown Hotel and Residences in Barangaroo, with breathtaking views and price to match.
Welcome to a home like no other, a palatial 2-level penthouse sitting in the clouds above Sydney.
It's very rare. It is an incredible piece of real estate here in Sydney, and I am fairly convinced that it will probably never happen again.
There are 800 square metres of internal space and another 50 in outdoor areas, and from every room, views, 360 degrees, from the Royal National Park in the south to the Blue Mountains in the west and the Pacific Ocean to the east. Inside, no luxury has been spared. This state-of-the-art kitchen is one of 2.
Appliances and finishes here are far from ordinary.
Absolutely. We've tried to find the best. So we have Wolf and Sub-Zero for the appliances. We have quartzite here on the work surfaces, and the raised bench there is in marble.
The master bedroom, walk-through robe and a bathroom with jacuzzi and steam shower are together larger than many entire apartments.
So this has to be one of the best places to wake up in Sydney.
Not too bad. Incredible sunset and sunrise views from the master suites.
In all, there are 6 bedrooms with en-suites. There's an office for very posh working from home, a gym, cinema room, internal lift and much, much more.
We do have a number of outdoor spaces here. So there's 3 different balconies, all really spacious. This one though, yes, private plunge pool. You can sit here, enjoy a beautiful glass of champagne and watch all the activity out on the harbour.
This is one of 76 residences in the Crown Complex, but it is the highest. Interest has come mainly from Sydney-siders, but it has been on the market for a little while. Experts say that's hardly unusual.
The higher the price, the smaller the buyer pool. It is rarefied air when you're looking at a $100 million price tag. You're looking at, AFR rich listers, very wealthy foreign buyers, but it's a tiny, tiny part of the buyer pool.
Now, at this price, you don't just get this incredible view and apartment, you also get access to everything the hotel below has to offer, including 24-hour concierge, valet parking, room service dining, and access to the tennis court and spa.
And as a resident, you'll be treated as a VIP.
That is a first for Australia. This is Australia's first fully integrated hospitality branded residence.
All with an extraordinary price tag, but then nothing about this home is ordinary. In Barangaroo, Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
Researchers believe they've made an encouraging Alzheimer's discovery from drugs with a very different use. A study finding men who took erectile dysfunction medication such as Viagra and Cialis were 18% less likely to be diagnosed with the most common form of dementia. The UK research examined nearly 270,000 men with an average age of 59. Scientists are now hoping to begin a clinical trial to look at the effects of these drugs on Alzheimer's in women as well. Uber has never managed to make a profit until now. And after 14 years, the global rideshare company says this is a turning point. Here's our finance editor, Chris Kohler.
Plenty have doubted whether Uber's massive global network would ever translate into profit, but it's finally happening. The company announced an operating profit of $1.1 billion overnight, its first one ever. The CEO is calling it a turning point, but have a look at the share price over the last year. It's doubled, so investors must have quietly decided the turning point was a while ago. Here in Australia, our share market was slightly higher today. Transurban fell despite the toll road company announcing higher profits from drivers, while AGL Energy was the best performer after telling the market its half-year profit is up a huge 359%, which means customers might start asking a few extra questions about their power bills. And the Australian dollar was weaker against most major currencies, buying 65 US cents and 60.5 euro cents.
Good on you, Chris. Thank you. Let's look at the price of unleaded across Sydney tonight. The average is $1.97.1 a litre. You can find it cheaper at Milperra, located on Beaconsfield Street, and also on John Street, Homebush. It was an adrenaline-fuelled day at work for a keeper at the Australian Reptile Park when one of its American alligators needed rescuing. Houdini was wrangled out of the water and restrained after a foreign object was found in his mouth. Keeper Billy risking life and limb to pull more than 1 metre of sports strapping tape from the gator. Coming up in the news, Amber with the weather.
Thanks, Pete. Tonight will be mild and partly cloudy with lows of 17 to 19 degrees. Right now, it's around 22 degrees outside. I'll have your forecast in just a moment. It has been a cloudy day with moderate to gusty southeasterlies, reaching a top of 23 in Terry Hills, 24 in Penrith, 25 in the city, Kellyville, Campbelltown, and 26 in Blacktown, Liverpool and Cronulla. We saw some showers across the northern rivers, the mid-north coast and the northwest, 17 millimetres of rain falling in Yamba, 11 in Lismore and 5 in Port Macquarie. Reaching a top of 24 degrees right along the south coast, 23 to 28 along the north coast, and a warm day in the Riverina, tops of 29 to 31 degrees. In the next 48 hours, a tropical low is expected to intensify and develop into a tropical cyclone east of Australia, but thankfully it's not expected to affect the mainland, while onshore winds will maintain showers over parts of Victorian, New South Wales and Queensland coasts. Brisbane heading for a shower or two tomorrow, 29 degrees, sunny and 28 for Canberra, cloudy and 22 in Melbourne, a partly cloudy 23 in Hobart, blue skies and 29 in Adelaide. Perth heading for a sweltering 41 degrees with severe heatwave conditions expected to continue until Sunday. We're expecting some light showers in northeastern New South Wales tomorrow. The heaviest falls around Yamba, Lismore and Grafton. Heading for tops of 26 in Coffs Harbour, Newcastle and Bega. A warmer 33 on the way for Bourke, Griffith, Wagga Wagga and Albury. Sydney will be partly cloudy tomorrow with a slight chance of a shower, most likely in the evening, and only up to a millimetre if anything, with light to moderate southeasterlies. It will be several degrees warmer than today, heading for 25 in Terry Hills, 27 for the city, Kellyville, Parramatta and Liverpool, and a warmer 28 for Blacktown, Campbelltown and Richmond. Let's take a look ahead, and Saturday will be cloudy with a shower or two. That could bring up to 4 millimetres of rain, a top of 26 degrees, then just a light shower or two on Sunday, also heading for 26, finding up on Monday to a warm 29 degrees, reaching the 30s again on Tuesday with a top of 31. A few showers returning mid-next week with those overnight lows hovering around 19 to 22 degrees. In our west, the weekend is looking partly cloudy with a light shower or two, 25 degrees. Monday and Tuesday will be hot with tops of 31 to 33 degrees with possible showers moving in on Wednesday. And we'll see those overnight lows ranging from 17 to 20 degrees. Pete?
Amber, thank you. Ali is next with the current affair. That is 9 News for this Thursday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.